Imagine, if you will, a flat rooftop of a house perched high on a hill in ancient Persia, sometime late in the 1st century.
Good evening. They said you might be coming up here to sit with me. Oh, the older I get, the harder the climb. But you, my friend, your legs look young and strong. How come I haven't seen you up here more often? I haven't missed a clear night like this in years. Oh. There's something about the midnight skies that just draws me again and again. It's so beautiful. So tell me, what brings you here? Are you here to see what lies in the stars or what fate holds in store for you? I hope not. I've long since given up trying to predict the future based on the appearance of heavenly bodies. It's true that the circumstances of our birth affect us throughout our lives, but not because of some celestial appearance, rather because of who our parents are and how they raised us. No, I've long felt that what we see way up in the stars is merely a reflection of what we hold deep down in our hearts. They say the night is long, and there's plenty of time for stargazing. But there's also time for stories. So why don't you listen as I tell you mine? It happened so long ago. I was very young back then and puffed up with pride. I had studied long and hard with my tutors to learn the secrets of the stars, so that I might become a priest of Persia, one of the Magi, wise men they called us, though our wisdom came about only because we were more observant than most people. Wise men. I was apprenticed to another of the Magi back then. He was very old. He had a long white beard that covered his chest. And his skin was all wrinkled with age, much as mine is these days. He still had the sparkle of youth in his eyes, though. His name was Melchior. Melchior was a rather odd one. He rarely spoke. He spent his days poring over charts and scrolls, studying the stars. I once asked him why, at his advanced age, he felt it still necessary to spend so much time in study. I have never forgotten what he said. The search for truth, he told me, lasts a lifetime. As I say, he rarely spoke. That's why I remember so clearly that night, for it was Melchior who first saw the star. Balthazar and I, he was the other apprentice, we were downstairs. Melchior alone was up on the roof, when suddenly we heard a cry, and then Melchior came running down the steps. Balthazar and I both jumped up, afraid that the old man would trip and fall, but he didn't. Come and see, he said. There's a bright new star in the west. It's bright and beautiful. We went running up the steps. Look, he said, there. See it? Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed Balthazar. His jaw dropped as he stood staring. Amazing, amazing, he said. But as hard as I stared, as long as I looked and squinted, I could see nothing. Finally, out of fear of looking the fool, I nodded my head. Yes, I said. The enthusiasm in our house practically exploded. And the next morning, Melchior announced his plan to take a journey to the west to try and find what he was sure was a new king, for he felt that the star was a sign that a king had been born, a king of kings. He invited Balthazar and I to accompany him on the journey. Balthazar immediately said yes, but I hesitated. Finally, I agreed. After all, if Melchior was right, it wouldn't hurt to play up to the family of a newborn prince. And if he grew up to be a great ruler, he would need advisors, and who knows, I could have been his advisor, an advisor to a king of kings. We had the slaves pack up the camels with water and provision, and Melchior had each of us choose a gift to bring for the new prince. He chose gold, and Balthazar frankincense. But I wasn't about to waste something as precious as gold, and frankincense was far too fancy. So instead, I chose myrrh, a perfume used to anoint the bodies of the dead. Yeah, I know it sounds like a rather odd gift to give an infant, but it was practical. I mean, after all, kings die eventually. Our journey was an arduous one. We went from oasis to oasis. We traveled by night across the desert sands to Bethlehem to avoid the heat of day. Melchior said that the star was guiding him, though I still couldn't see it. He thought that we should go to Jerusalem, the capital city of Judah. Judah, I really began to think we were wasting our time. How could a ruler come from such a tiny, unimportant little nation like Judah? But that's what we did. We went to Jerusalem and paid a visit to the palace of the king, Herod. We were warmly welcomed and ushered off to guest quarters, while Herod summoned his advisors, the priests and scribes, and together they pored over the holy writings of their land until they found a prophecy about a king to be born in Bethlehem. Late that night, Herod secretly called for us and brought us into his chambers. He told us about the prophecy, and then he said, "Go and search diligently for the child. And when you have found him, bring me word so that I might worship him." And then, with a wave of the hand, he dismissed Melchior and Balthazar, but he told me to stay. He beckoned me to come closer, and then he leaned down and whispered in my ear, "I don't trust your friends," he said. "But you look like a man who keeps his word, and one who furthermore appreciates being rewarded for his efforts. I fear your friends won't come back and bring me word of the child. But if you do, I will see that you are amply rewarded with much gold and a position of great power in my court, if you wish it." And then he turned, and he was gone. When I went back, Balthazar wanted to know what it was that Herod had said. I merely shrugged him off. "Nothing," I said, "nothing important." But I went to bed, beginning to plot how I would do his bidding. The next morning, when we got up, we made our way from Jerusalem to Bethlehem. When we got there, we stopped in front of a simple house. There, said Balthazar, "the star. It's right over this place." We dismounted and gathered up our gifts, and then we went in to the house. And there we found a very, very young woman holding an infant in her arms. It was wrapped in swaddling clothes. Melchior fell to his knees, as did Balthazar, and not wanting to be suspected of anything, I too fell and knelt. But even as I was kneeling, I was determining when I would leave and return to Herod. Finally, we got up, having given our gifts. And as we went out, Melchior turned to me and he said, "I can't really explain it, but somehow the truth I've searched for my whole lifetime is wrapped up in those swaddling clothes." And then he smiled. We made our camp near the outskirts of Bethlehem. We settled down the camels, and then we ourselves lay down to sleep And soon we're sleeping fastly. And that's when it happened. I know I was sleeping. And I'm sure it was a dream. But what a dream. Though my memory fails me at times, that dream I shan't forget. Suddenly I saw in the sky in my dream a face filling the heavens. It was Herod's face. It was sneering and jeering and grimacing and awful. And he was laughing, a maniacal, diabolic laugh. And then there appeared in the sky 2 large hands holding an infant. And the laugh grew louder and louder and louder till I woke with a scream. Standing over me were Balthazar and Melchior. And then it all came tumbling out like poison from my system. I told them how I had been plotting and how I had planned on going back to Herod and how I was going to tell him. And I was sure that they could never forgive me and that they would leave me there and that all would be lost. But they didn't. Melchior walked over to me and gave me a hug. Gaspar, he said, the truth always surfaces. And with that, he began to instruct us to prepare to leave immediately. We packed up the camels and we got aboard and we prepared to leave. And as we reached the furthest outskirts of Bethlehem, just before we crossed into the desert, I looked back to see the town one more time. And when I did, I saw it. The star. I saw the star. And now you know why I say that what we see way up in the stars is merely a reflection of what we hold deep down inside. And that's my story. So long ago. Balthazar is still here. He's downstairs tonight. But Melchior, he's long since dead. I shan't forget, among his few words, that which he told me on his deathbed. Gaspar, he said, remember the star, for even when darkness is all around you, it will shine in your heart. I don't predict the future anymore, and I rarely give advice. But those are good words, my friend. Good words for you to live by. Remember the star. For even when darkness is all around you, it will shine in your heart. It will shine in your heart.